Are you looking for the best running watches? In this video we will look at some of the 5 best running watches on the market. Before we get started with our video, we have included links in the description, so make sure you check those out to see which one is in your budget range. Number 1. Apple Watch Ultra 2. The Apple Watch Ultra 2, at its core, is a productivity smartwatch aimed at endurance athletes who also want outstanding GPS capabilities. This watch isn't a huge upgrade from its predecessor, which held the position of best smartwatch for running in this guide before this new release. Compared to the previous version, it has double the memory, a faster processor, and a brighter screen. While it may not be worth upgrading to this watch if you already own the original version, it's worth getting this one if you're in the market for a new smartwatch. This watch can do it all: message, make calls, play music, use contactless payments, and use a host of other first- and third-party apps right on your wrist. It can also collect tons of health data and track daily movement. Where it differs from other Apple Watches is its action button, a hardware shortcut that can be programmed to start a specific activity instead of scrolling through all the installed apps. I mapped my action button to Outdoor Run for easy access. Full GPS battery life is advertised to last for an Ironman triathlon or about 17 hours. That is more than double the tracking available on other Apple Watches. It also features a more durable titanium case with a sapphire crystal screen less prone to scratches and dings from impact. It is water resistant down to 100 meters and is more durable than other Apple Watches. It also has built-in safety features. In addition to standard crash and fall detection, there is also an 86 decibel siren on board to draw attention in emergencies. The screen is super bright and vivid and shows great details. It is responsive to interact with. Overall, it is a significant step up for the Apple Watch platform for those wanting a single device to do it all at work or play. This watch does have limitations. First, it requires another Apple device to activate it. Next, the battery life for day-to-day use and GPS tracking still pales compared to the competition at the same and lower price points. This is a touch-first device, and it is a struggle to use when wet or wearing gloves. Routing seems to be the biggest miss for a device that prides itself on safety, as there is no native way to upload a route to follow. You can't simply scroll to a breadcrumb screen and look back at where you may have gotten off course. There is a compass app that sits outside of the workout screens that can do a bit of this, but you have to remember to start it in addition to starting your activity. It is a lot of jumping back and forth between screens and can become frustrating, even more so if you're wearing gloves or in wet weather due to the touch screen. Overall, as an all-in-one device, it is a marvelous watch. Having the ability to leave the house on a known route with earbuds while listening to music, podcasts, or audiobooks or receiving a call or text with an enabled cellular connection while not carrying a phone is pretty great. This is a step up if you are coming from a non-ultra version of the Apple Watch. Those coming from medium to high-end modern sports watches will immediately notice the frequent charging required and curious lack of mapping functions. Number 2. Coros Apex 2/2 Pro. While many watches get upgrades over time, the Coros Apex 2/2 Pro made the biggest jump over its predecessor, the Coros Apex, which we named our best budget GPS watch in 2022. Unfortunately, in addition to an increase in features, there's also been a price increase, though the price has come down from when it was first released. The preloaded offline mapping is the single update that makes this watch much better. Combined with a vivid display, the Coros navigation takes a much-needed step up. The watch goes into touchscreen mode when navigating, making it super easy to get around the screen. The prior version didn't have a touchscreen or preloaded maps, which was a deal-breaker for many when shopping for a watch. While you still have to resort to the relatively old-school method of emailing yourself a GPX route and then sending it to the watch to be able to navigate it, at least the landscape and topographical base maps are already there. The watch keeps its digital dial from the previous version, which is less prone to accidental starting and stopping than a button on the side of the watch that can be unintentionally pushed against a wrist bone or hit while putting a jacket on. Like all Coros devices, the battery life is exceptional and has better output than the original, offering around 30 days of regular use if you're headed out to run for an hour or two each day. If you've never used a Coros watch before, you'll be delighted at how infrequently you need to charge it. We're still not convinced that Coros' implication that its use of an all-satellite GNSS chipset is a huge value add. Under normal running circumstances, we don't see much of a difference in the 5 satellite antennas' GPS fidelity or accuracy compared to every other brand's more common 3 satellite antenna, GPS, GLONASS, Galileo. The only time the 5 satellite system significantly outperformed the 3 satellite antenna of other watches was in deep slot canyons of Utah with a very minimal sky view. In this instance, we were amazed at how accurate the Coros system was, while the other watch tested picked up more errant points than accurate ones. The wireless heart rate monitoring of this watch also struggles to work accurately. It's reasonable in lower heart rate zones, but as soon as you start working harder, the number stays well below what a more trustworthy heart rate strap provides. Of all GPS watches, Coros has the fastest processing. It takes less than 10 seconds for an activity to synchronize with the Coros app and then another handful of seconds to upload it to a third-party app like Strava. This sounds somewhat trivial but is appreciated when you've thrown down and want to check your results quickly. Number 3. Coros Vertix 2. When it comes to battery life, the Coros Vertix 2 still reigns supreme among all GPS watches. We've written before that this watch, for the money, is possibly overkill for the average ultra-runner, especially since it's a bit weaker in many areas than other similarly priced GPS watches. But when you want a handful of awesome features plus the best battery in the class, you'll be happy with this watch and the Coros ecosystem, including its app, firmware updates, training plans, and aesthetics. Megan Hicks of iRunFar tested the limits of the watch battery and its heavily touted GNSS, all-satellite dual-frequency chipset battery, during the multi-day 126-mile snowman race in Bhutan. This amounted to 51 hours of running over 5 days in the high-altitude Himalayan wilderness. She used the battery at its highest setting, where the watch connects to GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, QZSS, and Beidou in dual frequency. Coros claims the battery will last for 50 hours in this setting. Although Megan wasn't willing to risk running out of battery and ended up charging the watch on the 4th and final night of camping, after 43.5 hours of use over 3.5 days, in hindsight, she felt there was probably enough battery power not to need a recharge. Another standout feature is the at-a-glance widgets. You can use the dial to scroll through data, including your day's step count, sleep, average heart rate, recovery status, and more. This is very similar to the widgets on Garmin watches, but we use them more since scrolling on the Coros is a natural and fluid method rather than clicking with the Garmin. The Coros sleep tracking seems more accurate and detailed than we've experienced with other GPS watches. You'll probably never worry about damaging the watch's face with its titanium bezel. After over 2 years of regularly using this watch, it still looks new except for the dirt in the strap. And on the topic of straps, if you've finally had it with hard plastic ones, Coros is earnestly moving towards offering soft nylon bands and silicone straps. This watch's weaknesses remain similar to past editions. The cost is just really high for a watch that lacks the most advanced features of its competitors, including integration with music providers like Spotify, live Strava segment information, a native route building tool, and labeled maps in turn-by-turn directions. Number 4. Coros Pace 2. If battery life and GPS accuracy are the 2 features you care about the most but can't stomach the price of a higher-end watch, there is no better option in this guide than the Coros Pace 2. While this watch lacks some of the features of other watches in this guide, it outperforms them in several ways. While this watch has several road running and track-specific features, it also works for ultra and trail running. Unlike its more expensive siblings, this watch doesn't offer several battery-saving modes, just a single normal mode that will last for about 20 days of gathering health monitoring metrics or 30 hours of activity on a full charge. This is way above adequate for most situations and will provide the same sense of freedom from your charging cable that you get with many other watches. The smartest technology in the watch favors road and track athletes with a track mode that will smooth out variances in distance and pace caused by switching lanes or deviating slightly between the starting line of the workout. The watch doesn't have a specific sport mode for trail running, which will limit the on-screen data you might find useful, including elevation gain. The watch does have a barometric pressure altimeter to best measure elevation gain during a run. Number 5. Suunto 9 Peak Pro Titanium. The appearance of many GPS watches turns many people off because of their size and aesthetic, but the Suunto 9 Peak Pro Titanium is a big step forward in the style department. When this watch first came out, Suunto's tradition of watches with massive displays came to a screeching halt. Sunto may have become one of the key players in the watch category for ultra-runners over the past 2 decades, thanks to good battery performance and solid durability, but there were always glaring issues with their watches. They struggled with processing speed, app integration, and sometimes glitchy software. But if you're willing to compromise a little bit on performance for the sake of style, this watch is a great option. The super sleek and attractive design has a 1.2-inch screen and keeps the same bezel size as its predecessor in comparison to the screen. Unfortunately, the bezel takes up nearly a quarter inch of the face and hogs much of the screen's real estate. At only 55 grams, this watch is incredibly lightweight, and our titanium version is still noticeably clean and scratch-free after months of use. It's the least sporty-looking watch in this guide, making it attractive for regular life, not just running. Suunto's aesthetic sense extends to the fonts and colors this watch uses. It's a bit like the difference between Apple and Android. The world's best consumer product designers, Apple, nail every corner of their product from fit to finish, and Suunto fits more into this mold than, say, Coros, whose aesthetics lean more towards the function-over-fashion appearance of Android. Scrolling activity modes and even the watch's controls are clear, simple, and inviting to the eye, and everything feels clearer and more accurate. And though this version's looks are virtually the same as its predecessor, it packs a ton of notable upgrades. Chief among the improvements is battery life, particularly for a watch with such a small footprint. We regularly get up to 40 hours of use in the best GPS mode, which is usually about a month's worth of daily activities. With its flawless speed, a new processor makes scrolling around the watch an absolute joy. Like other Coros watches, the updated GPS chipset can access all 5 major GPS satellites, but it is not a dual-band or dual-frequency GPS. Despite functioning on the single-band frequency, the watch does a fantastic job with GPS accuracy, showing no real deviation compared to its dual-frequency competitors in most situations. We found that this watch will connect to GPS satellites and locate itself much faster than other watches we tested. While some major features like offline mapping and streaming music integration are missing, particularly for a watch in this price range, the Suunto 9 Peak Pro Titanium offers a fast charging time of about 50 minutes from dead to full and is easily the most aesthetically pleasing of all watches in this guide. Unfortunately, some of the other features of this watch are still lacking. The processing speed, while much improved, is still very slow compared to some of the other watches, and just like in the old days, the watch will flat out freeze from time to time, requiring a hard reset. We haven't had to deal with this in the other watches tested here.